Spencer Rattler looks like he's out to an early lead in the New Orleans Saints quarterback battle. Why and what he'll have to do to keep it? We got all that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I am your host, your friend, Ross Jackson, New Orleans native, your New Orleans Saints expert and credentialed member of the media covering those New Orleans Saints as a Saints beat writer over at LouisianaSports.net. And on today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at some under-the-radar performers. You've got Mason Tipton out to a hot start early. Chris Rumph is flashing and showing some promise, but he'll need to do some other things to make sure that he's not emulating a previous defensive end of recent memory. We'll dive into all of that. We're going to kick everything off today with a look at the New Orleans Saints quarterback battle. I want to tell you why Spencer Rattler is in the lead for me, my opinion. We'll dig into what he needs to do to hold on to it, and I'll tell you who is right there on his heels, ready to take that first position. We got all that coming up for you on today's episode. We appreciate you very much, whether it's your first time or your next time, being here with us this time, making us your first listen, and being an everydayer here on the show, which is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. In my opinion, Spencer Rattler is out to an early lead in the New Orleans Saints quarterback battle. I'm not saying that that's what the Saints think. I don't know what they think. I'm not saying that that's what others are saying. I don't know what others are talking about. I'm talking about me. For me, my opinion right now is that Spencer Rattler is off to an early lead in the quarterback battle conversation. Let me give you a couple of reasons why. And I want to tell you why somebody's already starting to nip at his heels, even though he's not getting the opportunity that maybe, or didn't get the opportunity that maybe he should have gotten in day 3 of training camp. So far we have seen Spencer Rattler, let's go by the numbers here, take a series of snaps for New Orleans. He is actually leading right now amongst quarterback snap distribution, whether that be team or 7-on-7 drills. So combining those, we see Spencer Rattler with 47, Tyler Shough with 39, Jake Haener right behind with 38. So I expect that what this means, with Tyler Shough having an 8 or 9 snap lead at the moment, that more than likely we're going to see him get a lighter day in the upcoming days in some non-padded practice. That could be today, that could be later on this week. The Saints put the pads on Monday, so I doubt it'll be that day. But we'll see where things go. But I would absolutely expect Spencer Rattler to have some 9-rep day at some point when the pads are not on. We've seen it for Jake Haener. He got that his very first day. We saw that for Tyler Shough, his most recent day, where he only saw 9 total reps. So I expect that we'll see that soon for Spencer Rattler. But the reason why I've got Spencer Rattler in the lead for me right now is because of the fact that he has had 2 perfect passing days so far. He went 9 of 9 his first day, which was a lot of underneath work, a lot of drive starters, things like that. So that's to be expected. But the other quarterbacks were running the same concepts, were scripted the same concepts, and did not complete 9 of 9 passes. So we do have to keep that in the mind as well. But then also on Friday, the most recent day of Saints practice, we saw him go 10 of 10. And that was with some down and distance work with a lot of distribution at all 3 levels of the field. A quick slant to Rashid Shaheed turned into a big catch and run touchdown. We saw a big delivery downfield to Michael Jacobson, the tight end that's continued to stand out, somebody you'll hear about later on today. He ended up having a touchdown there too. And so both of Spencer Rattler's touchdowns on the throughout the first 3 days when it comes to the passing side of things have been sort of these either downfield concepts or a catch and run concept, not necessarily red zone situations. He actually struggled a bit in the red zone, but has completed 25 of his 29 passes. He's got 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown as well, and then an interception. Now, keep all of that in context. These are non-contact practices, and you're not allowed to touch the quarterback, so on and so forth, but that's going to be true for all 3 of these passers. Tyler Shough is 11 of 20 so far with 2 passing touchdowns. Both of those passing touchdowns coming in red zone drills, one of them being on 7-on-7s, both to Rashid Shaheed. And then Jake Haener, 15 of 23 so far with a passing touchdown. That one came in 7s as well in red zone drills. A nice toe tapping catch on a great ball delivery by Jake Haener. So for all of these reasons, just looking at the numbers so far, but also in taking in the context of what was meant to be worked throughout that day, I will put Spencer Rattler right now sort of in pole position for the quarterback battle, not for the starting role at the beginning of the season because it's been 3 practices, But as of right now, as we're sort of tracking things and sort of laying the foundation for where things are beginning during the camp process and where they can go moving forward, I've got to give Spencer Rattler the nod thus far. So far, the thing that has impressed me about all three passers for Spencer Rattler, it's been his processing speed. He's really sped up his clock. At the same time, the game feels like it's slowed down. That's a really great place to be, especially as a second-year quarterback. Tyler Shough's ball placement, especially on downfield passes, has been outstanding. He had a phenomenal throw to Juwan Johnson during team drills on Friday on a crossing route where he caught him as he went from the left side or from the right side to the left side. Big crossing route a la Dallas Goedert in Kellen Moore's offense last year with the Philadelphia Eagles against New Orleans. Caught him right before the sideline. Beautifully delivered pass with three defenders desperately trying to keep pace with Juwan Johnson as he used that athleticism and speed laterally across the field. Beautifully thrown ball, his best, maybe the best throw of camp so far. And Jake Haener's quick decisiveness has helped him look sharp when he's on. Big things have been when he's not on, things like that. And so I think all three of these guys, though, have shown you something. But I think that the thing that really, really helps you move an offense is processing speed and good decision making. And clearly we're seeing that on two perfect passing days. And as we highlighted the processing speed of Spencer Rattler, even with the ability to attack all three levels so far, that for me, that puts him sort of at the top for right now. Who's right behind him? Well, that's easy. That's Tyler Shough. And I think one of the reasons why Tyler Shough is right behind him is because of the fact that Tyler Shough is an incredibly talented passer. This guy is able to get the ball anywhere on the field. He can make any throw. He's got a ton of different arm angles. We're seeing all of it already here in training camp. And he can put the ball where only the receiver can catch it. He's got elite ball placement from what we can see so far, or at least let's just say the best ball placement in terms of what we've seen so far. And so I think that all of those things are going to allow Tyler Shough to continue to keep pace. I expect Tyler Shough to probably have a bigger day today, larger workload, more opportunities, all these other things. And then maybe Spencer Rattler sees a little bit less of a workload. We'll see. Spencer Rattler so far is the only quarterback through the first 3 days that has not taken third team reps. And remember, this doesn't count the extra work that the Saints do after practice, which includes the developmental reps and things like that, where maybe Hunter Deckers is seeing some stats, but Tyler Shough saw some the other day when he had a lighter day of practice on Friday. And so that's also going to be mixed in to, I'm sure, the Saints' decision. But in terms of what we have been able to see as the media so far, I have to say that at this point, it's Spencer Rattler leading the way, but Tyler Shough is certainly nipping at his heels. If Spencer Rattler wants to maintain that top position, he's just simply going to have to continue to be efficient. He's going to have to continue to be precise. He's going to have to continue to show that he can move quickly through those progressions, especially when the pads come on, the physicality ticks up, and that pass rush gets a little bit more antsy. What are you able to do when you're feeling a little bit more of that pressure? That's going to be a big part of the evaluation for what's next for Spencer Rattler. And certainly that will be a big part of the evaluation for Tyler Shough and Jake Haener as well. All right. That's where I see the quarterback battle so far. Again, my opinion. It's all that this is, my opinion. But coming up next, I want to take a look at some of the other standouts all around on the offensive and defensive side, including some under-the-radar guys. We'll start with Chris Rumph, who needs to try really hard not to emulate a former failed pass rusher for the New Orleans Saints. If he can do that, he might steal a spot on the 53-man roster. We got that coming up as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's time. Fantasy football is back. Get your big boards built, get your draft scheduled, and you can do it all through Yahoo Fantasy. Me and all of my friends all use Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too. Whether you're a first-timer or you're making your millionth league, you're going to be able to have everything you need from your pre-draft setup so that you can have the best draft possible to being able to manage your league as the commish or participate in your league through the outstanding Yahoo Fantasy app, which is absolutely excellent. You can find it all over at Yahoo Fantasy today. And to celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. And it all begins August 4th. So stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. That's yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. And let's make this fantasy season the best one yet. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime, where you can download the Gametime app and save up to 60% on your last minute tickets, if you're somebody like me who travels a lot and you want to know what's going on when you get to a new city, the Gametime app is awesome. Lets you filter everything down to the city that you're in. It'll show you all the different deals. And sometimes, and a lot of times actually, tickets get cheaper as you get closer and closer. So it's okay to be spontaneous and say, hey, let's go on a date night. Let's go and check out this show. Let's go and check out that show. Everything from theater to sports to comedy to events. There's a ton for you to check out over at Gametime today. Make sure you check out those zone deals as well. They'll pick the best seats for you in the section that you want. Take all the guesswork out of buying tickets by downloading the Gametime app today. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. Quick episode for you this morning to get you ready for day 4 of New Orleans Saints training camp. Going back through the last 3 days of Saints camp, I wanted to highlight some of the maybe under the radar standout performers that we've seen so far. And I want to start off with somebody over on the defensive side, and that is defensive end or edge rusher, Chris Rumph. Chris Rumph has some familiarity with Brandon Staley, which I think can go a long way for him. But beyond that, he's also shown some flashes already so far through the first 3 days of camp. And those flashes have come with him in the pass rush, choosing the right angle or the right positioning, being in the right place when it comes to run defense, getting in the backfield in terms of what would be tackles for a loss, run filling gaps, all these other pieces, but also even having to kind of drop in the coverage and just be in the right position in the flats from time to time. These edge rushers are going to have to do that. So being able to see a little bit of that from him, from Fadil Diggs as well, who stood out in one of those reps earlier this week. I think that there's a lot of things to look at there that are promising when it comes to the flashes that we've seen from Chris Rumph. But in particular, he's going to have to make an impact as an edge rusher and pressure on the quarterback. We'll see a little bit more of that when the pads go on tomorrow on Monday, and we'll see how that physicality leads to the pass rush and offensive line ticking up their performances and their production. But what Chris Rumph is going to have to do, though, is make sure that he's not just showing flashes, that he is instead building some consistency. This takes us all the way back to the Payton Turner experience. Payton Turner during training camp every now and then would flash, but wasn't able to put anything together consistently. So far through the first 3 days, I would say that we're consistently seeing Chris Rumph flash because he's got limited opportunities playing with second and third teams and things like that. But as camp goes on, those flashes, if he keeps having them every day, those go from being flashes to being consistent levels of play. And I think that that's important for New Orleans, who's going to be looking for that other pass rusher behind Chase Young, behind Carl Granderson, behind Cam Jordan, and alongside some of these other young guys. If Chris Rumph is able to continue to produce these flashes over a consistent amount of time, we'll no longer be talking about them as flashes. We'll be talking about them as a consistent performance. That mixed with his familiarity with Brandon Staley could absolutely land him a spot on the 53-man roster. So he'll need to avoid the Payton Turner experience. But if he can do that, good shot for him and a great opportunity for him too in a room that's still very much yet to be completely fleshed out in terms of what happens behind the big three, if you will, at the position. Next, I want to highlight Mason Tipton, the young wide receiver flashing and showing out again. Had 4 catches on Friday on the first day of camp. He had a great connection with Spencer Rattler on this outbreaking route. Rattler getting the ball out before he got out of the break. Him catching it all along the boundary. We've seen that connection a couple of times now. And remember, Mason Tipton got off to a hot start last year too during training camp, but then got injured and that kind of slowed everything down for him. And so it's tough. Like, we had to remember how challenging it is for these young guys, first, second, third year guys that are coming in undrafted to be those training camp studs. That's hard to do. And we tend to discount them because they will be like the training camp studs, but then it doesn't translate into the regular season or whatever. But even finding success in training camp when you're not one of the top drafted guys or at the top of your position or anything like that, that's really challenging to do. And so Mason Tipton coming back for a second year in a row and so far showing off a bit of what's going on. And remember, I was very cautious around Mason Tipton last year in Irvine because we had seen these kinds of things before. Flashing in training camp, but not necessarily translating to the regular season. We certainly saw that last year as well. The injury didn't help. But as you continue to build these stacking practices and stacking years, then all of a sudden things become a little bit more realistic for these young guys. And so if Mason Tipton can keep doing what he's doing, it's going to at least put him in position to have improved that he can have that impact in the regular season, which right now is all that he can ask for, right? That's the biggest and best thing that he can ask for at the moment. And so if he continues to perform the way that he's performing, he'll get that opportunity to perform in the regular season where he'll then have to answer those questions, of course. But in any case, good stuff coming from Mason Tipton yet again here throughout training camp. Two big things are going to be staying healthy and then translating that to the regular season, as we discussed. Another guy that I want to highlight is cornerback Rico Payton. Rico Payton's only allowed one catch so far when targeted in team drills. Everything else that's come his way has been in 7-on-7s, which are very much weighted towards the offense. But he's also had 2 back-to-back pass breakups in 7-on-7 red zone drills. So while that was weighted towards the offense, Rico Payton's still finding a way to make those plays. So we're seeing good things from him so far as well. He was a guy that started off, honestly, struggled a bit at the beginning of training camp last year, and then really picked things up towards the tail end of camp, and especially in the preseason. Ended up getting himself onto the roster and especially ended up making a bunch of plays as the gunner opposite JT Gray, which is huge because if he's making plays opposite JT Gray, that's freeing up JT Gray to go and make his plays in the punt game and all those other pieces too. But now you're seeing Rico Payton stand out a bit more over on the defensive side early, so definitely something to watch. He's going to be kind of in that conversation eventually with Quincy Riley and Isaac Yiadom and all that if he continues this trajectory. But in any case, being a valuable depth piece at corner is going to be very important this year because you're not going to have every starting corner every game. Sorry, but it's not going to happen. And so you want to be able to have somebody that you can fall back on. The depth at corner was something that made Dennis Allen's defense work in the past because they had to so often be without Marshawn Lattimore, so often be without Paulson Adebo. And so having that depth behind them was really important. And so building up that depth again with guys like Quincy Riley, Isaac Yiadom, whatever whoever the top guy ends up being opposite Kool-Aid McKinstry, the other guy ends up being your depth. And then Rico Payton, this is a good situation for the Saints to be in. And it's a good situation for Rico Payton, who kind of is holding on to a roster spot that he absolutely deserves at this point. And so we're seeing some good things from him as well. Lastly, I want to go back to the offense. Let's talk Michael Jacobson. Michael Jacobson did it again on Friday. A big completion downfield on a crossing route, this big sort of over pattern, if you will, from Spencer Rattler that the Saints themselves called a touchdown. It was Spencer Rattler's second touchdown of the day. And his big catches have been just a part of camp. Now he's made some leaping catches because he's a guy you can just put it up high for. And at 6'6" with some good leaping ability, he'll go up and get it. So quarterbacks tend to go high to him. I think you'd like to see that come down because you don't want anybody getting cleaned up jumping for a football, right? So there's some things to adjust there. But if he's able to kind of find more opportunities where he's keeping both feet on the ground and making catches and things like that, he'll stay healthy and he'll stay productive. The Saints are going to need somebody else at tight end, depending upon how long it's going to take for guys like Foster Morrow as well as Taysom Hill to make it back to the roster. Maybe they sign Noah Fant, maybe they don't. The Saints concluded that visit. And so, not at all surprisingly, did they conclude that visit without a deal getting done. So we'll see where things go from here. But real opportunity here for Michael Jacobson as well. You also have all your typical standouts: Chase Young, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, so on and so forth. But I wanted to kind of focus on the guys that maybe don't get talked about as much and kind of focus on those that are standing out. Because if nothing else, that's sort of that raising tide that brings up all ships, right? That helps with your depth, helps make you better towards the back end of your roster. And so if you're doing that, that's helping to grow your entire position group and therefore your entire team. So I think all those guys are players that are examples of doing that. We'll see more maybe on the offensive defensive line as well as in the run game when it comes to pads going on tomorrow. But until then, I don't have anybody to highlight for you there just yet. And so we'll see how things go there. All right. Coming up later on today, I'll be live recapping day 4 of New Orleans Saints training camp. We'll see who gets first team reps, which quarterback stands out, which players stand out as well, and the final practice before pads go on tomorrow. We appreciate you very much, as always, for making us a part of your day, part of your routine, for saying yes to me on the show. If you see me, please say hi. And if you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on your favorite social media at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Know what the family's doing. Let me know how you living. Let me know how you momming them. And trust Who Dat Nation. I'll holla at you.